Following is a paid political broadcast. The views, information, or opinions expressed in this forum are solely those of the participants of this event and do not represent the views of the management and staff of Radio Cayman.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
Come on, let me in. I can't cope with Karen in the office no more, man. Another day of her can drive me mad. I got so much laundry to do home. Oh, another message? Man, this traffic not moving today, or come on, let me in now.
Life is all about the choices we make to deal with the office Karens or sit in this long traffic, or a choice to pursue your dreams to improve your future. UCCI. It's not the classes, the grades, or a piece of paper. It's your ticket for the adventure of your choice. The choice to live your dream. Stop waiting on the path. Visit www.ucci.edu.ky. Choose your dream and blaze your trail today.
Hey, Cayman parents, we get it. You're underslept, over-trafficked. You can barely find your sanity in the morning because you're still trying to find your kids' shoes and lunch boxes. Let Yum take some of the stress away. Every day, over 3,000 students enjoy delicious, nutritious meals from Yum. Over 5 million lunches served and counting. Private school parents, browse the Yum Cayman app and order up to a month in advance or last minute by 12 a.m. the night before. Government school students, just drop by the Yum canteen. No pre-orders needed. Yum can't help you find your sanity, but we can sure make your mornings just a bit easier. Check out daily menus at myschoolpos.com or visit yumcayman.ky to learn more.
At Enterprise Cayman, we're connecting ambitious minds with real-world opportunities. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, tech enthusiast, or looking to expand your network, we've got the tools, training, and community to help you thrive. From career-boosting internships to hands-on startup support, this is where innovation begins. Don't miss out on the upcoming hackathon happening May 10th. Explore this and more today at enterprisecayman.ky. Enterprise Cayman. Innovate, connect, grow.
It's March Madness at Reflections. Shop the red tag sale until the end of March at Reflections. Save on kids, men's, and women's selected style shoes and sneakers. Brands like Nike, Puma, Reebok, and Dockers 50% off. Adidas 60% off. Ladies jeans in select styles at 50% off. And ladies tops from $9.99. Men step out in your Levi's $5.50. Now 25% off. All accessories and handbags 50% off. Shop the March Madness Red Tag Sale at Reflections all month long and be entered to win 2 Cayman Airways tickets. That's mad!
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Good evening from Radio Cayman's studio. I am Orrit Connor, host of For the Record, and in the event that you don't recognize me in a jacket and tie, because you're accustomed to seeing me in a more casual fashion. So I am one of your moderators for tonight's debate with candidates from West Bay North and West Bay Central. Also moderating with me is Miss Theresa Pitcairn. Tonight's debate will cover a wide range of topics, including district and national issues. The first segment will end at 8:30. And for those of you who don't like commercials, it will be commercial-free as well. I would like to thank each candidate for participating in this extremely important democratic process, which aims to help voters make a more informed choice amongst candidates for elected office. This is the first time that Radio Cayman is hosting a candidates debate for the general elections. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to explain why Radio Cayman is holding these debates. Unlike forums which traditionally pose the same questions to each candidate in turn, a debate challenges candidates on a range of topics with distinct issues and specific questions. This allows us to test their knowledge, leadership abilities, and vision beyond rehearsed talking points. Additionally, our format includes rebuttals, giving candidates the opportunity to challenge statements made by their opponents when directly referred to. This ensures a dynamic and engaging discussion, one that reflects real-world governance, where leaders must defend their positions and respond to differing viewpoints. The debate format will begin with 1. Candidate's introduction. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to deliver a brief introduction. During this time, candidates will introduce themselves, describe their qualifications, and outline their political platform. 2. Questioning and response. The debate will consist of a series of questions directed to individual candidates. The first round of questions will call to the candidate's eligibility and ability to lead. The following round of questions will focus on national and district level issues. Let's go over some of the rules. The following rules will govern this segment. In the first round, questions will be posed in alphabetical order of the candidate's surname. For the second question, the next name in the alphabetical order will be able to respond first to the posed question and the first candidate to respond. In the previous round, will now answer last. This ensures everyone has an equal opportunity to respond first. The timing of rounds is as follows. The moderator will ask one question to a selected candidate. The candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question. On the rebuttal end, after the initial response, another candidate, when directly referenced or at the moderator's discretion, will have the opportunity to offer a 1-minute rebuttal to the answer. As far as follow-up responses go, the original responding candidate will then have 2 minutes to reply to the rebuttal as well. For the clarification, the moderator has the discretion to ask the original responding candidate to clarify their response if needed, providing the candidate has 30 seconds in which to do so. The duration of the debate is for 75 minutes at its maximum. As far as closing comments are concerned, at the conclusion of the debate, each candidate will have 2 minutes to deliver their closing statements. During this time, candidates may summarize their platform and make a final appeal to our voters. With that, I'm going to ask, we still have some more instructions for you. As far as time limits are concerned, each candidate is allotted a maximum of 2 minutes, which we have pointed out before for response, 1 minute for rebuttal, and 2 minutes for responses to rebuttals as well. 30 seconds to clarify an answer if required. Candidates are also given 2 minutes for closing comments, like we said before. In relation to conduct, respectful conduct, all candidates are expected to maintain a respectful and professional tone throughout the debate. Personal attacks and interruptions will not be allowed. Microphones will be cut, and Radio Cayman will employ their 7-second delay button to avoid attacks being broadcast over the airways. Again, let me explain the moderator's role. The moderator will enforce the debate rules, including timing, and ensure each candidate is given equal time to speak. And I should change that to plurals, the moderators, because I do, as I said earlier, have a co-moderator in the person of Ms. Theresa Pitcairn. Having explained the debate format and general rules, which was pretty long, may sound a little bit complicated, but you will see how it works in a few minutes, I will take this opportunity to welcome tonight's candidates for our first debate, which is the constituency of West Bay North. They are Mr. Rolston Anglin, an independent candidate, Ms. Shakeina Bush, an independent candidate, Mr. Jermaine Ebanks-Hurlston, an independent candidate, and Mr. Jordan Rivers for the Cayman Islands, the Caymanian National Party, or the Cayman Islands National Party. Our focus tonight is on the issues that matter to the people of West Bay North and the Cayman Islands. We encourage thoughtful, respectful exchanges, and we hope that by the end of this debate, voters will have a clearer understanding of each candidate's policies, priorities, and ability to lead. Ms. Theresa, may I welcome you to the podium.
I'll pass this over to you. So thank you very much, Orit. I'm not going to be calling him Mr. Conner tonight. It'll be Orit. And as Orit kindly mentioned, my name is Theresa Pitcairn. And as Orit explained, I am this evening's co-moderator. And we'll begin this evening's debate by directing the first question.
Introduction.
Right, but I was going to do that afterwards. Sorry. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Shake off the bugs. You got it.
Okay. So we'll begin this evening's debate by directing the first question to Mr. Rolston Anglin. But before doing that, Raleigh, can I ask you to tell us something about yourself?
Sure. First of all, let me thank Radio Cayman, Orit, yourself, and all of the staff for organizing these debates in a sort of forum that allows candidates to put forward their policy positions is good for democracy. So would also like to thank all of the other candidates for appearing. Rolston Rolly Anglin, I attended the Sir John A. Cumber Primary School, went on through the high school and sixth form, eventually graduating with honors from the Ohio State University. I then passed the Certified Public Accountant exam on my first attempt, went on to New York City. And so upon returning home, I then was asked and answered the call to public service and was first elected in November of 2000. And for those 3 terms, I was a backbencher, an opposition member, and then in my final term, a minister in cabinet. And so when I look at where Cayman is, I believe I'm uniquely positioned and qualified to sit as a member of parliament and to ensure that the people of West Bay North is given the type of representation that's needed, but more importantly, the Cayman Islands is given the type of representation that's needed. For Cayman is but a very small island, 22 miles long, 8 miles wide. What happens in West Bay North or East End or the sister islands, the impact is uniform across the islands. And so we have to be cognizant that Cayman is the most important thing in all that we do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anglin, or my little friend Raleigh. Shakeina, can I invite you to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Good night to all. My name is Shakeina Bush. I am a candidate for West Bay North. I start with my background or my CV. I have a Bachelor of Science in Education. I'm currently pursuing my Master's in Sports Organizational Management. I have 8 years of teaching the government education system at West Bay Primary or Sir John A. Campbell Primary School. I am a Golden Apple Award recipient for teaching excellence. I have served on multiple government boards, one being the Central Planning Authority and the National Sports Commission. I have 20 years of community service under my belt. And I've also worked with a diverse range of not-for-profit organizations in that time. My reason for taking this step is because of the many families that came to me and their belief in me and what I've been able to do within my community, within my country, for our youth and our elderly for quite some time now. I do believe in community. I do believe in our country and the people that we have and our ability to overcome things. I believe in our ability to come together instead of tearing each other apart or tearing each other down. I think that our people are currently in a dark place right now, and they're looking for light, they're looking for hope, they're looking for change, and change that is firm, leadership that is firm, leadership that won't give in to special interests, leadership that won't sell out our birthright. A big part of who I am and what I stand for is what have made my people ask me to step up to this calling. I'm here to fight. I'm here to fight for immigration reform. I'm here to fight for our youth and what it means for the future of them in our country. I'm here to be a voice for my people, a cry that I've heard, and I take action to step towards and be that person for other Caymanians.
So, many thanks, Shakeina. Over to Mr. Ebanks-Hurlston.
Thank you,
and
ma'am.
do I have the pleasure of calling you Jermaine?
Sure, that's fine. First off, I'd like to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity, and also thank the candidates here as well. As Rolston also, expresses, this is a democratic right, and for us to come forward to bring about change for Cayman and our people is important. To give a bit of my background, I have over 8 years experience. I was an engineer for 8 years. I worked with various companies, CUC, and also water company where I was DSACO certified. I went on to work in finance. I'm still in finance for over 17 years. I currently work as a business control analyst and compliance officer at a leading firm. Prior to that, I also have OSHA certified through extension of the FAA through Rubis Aviation, which I was the youngest person to also be promoted to, the youngest person to be promoted to crew chief on the aviation section. So why I'm coming forward is the same, I share the same sentiments as Shakeina, is that we've all faced these challenges time and time again, and there seems to be no true resolution. I'm a father. I'm concerned about the future, not just for my children, but for other people, other families as well. And I think that we're at a point right now where if we don't implement real change, that we may lose everything, and I'm not willing to sit back and allow that to happen. So in all essence, I think that it's important for us as people to acknowledge that there's work to be done, and in order to move forward, we have to address the issues as a group. Like I said before, I respect the two younger candidates here a lot because they're bringing a new way of politics forward. They have lived through the cycle just like me, and I think that that's what puts us ahead of the game.
Thank you so very much. I'm not going to call you Jermaine.
No worries.
And last but by no means least, Mr. Jordan Rivers. And can I call you Jordan?
That's perfectly fine.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you mentioned, my name is Jordan Rivers. I am a proud son of West Bay, and just like the other members that are here. I have been a tourism professional for a little over 15 years now. I've managed my family's company and helped it grow for several years. I've always been involved with my community from a very young age. And much like the sentiments that were echoed here earlier, I too have lived through the cycle, and I have looked and I've seen and I've studied and I've watched that I don't have any representation. At least I believe so for the next generation. We have had persons come time and time again, but I've never seen any individuals that have come that genuinely have a concern for the next generation. And as a person that could call it a self-proclaimed representative of the next generation, I figured it was time that I put my hat in the ring and stop sitting on the sidelines for as long as I've been sitting and actually create that representation that I want to see for this country. Because I do believe that at some point in time, the mantle has to be passed and we have to move forward into the future. And the best way to do that is to become exactly what I hope to see in this country. And that is a fair, honest, transparent, and accountable leader for not only the people that currently live, but those that are going to be coming in from the future. And that's why I put myself in this ring.
Thank you so very much.
For a further explanation to our audience, each candidate will receive a different question covering key national and constituency level issues. These topics were shared with the candidates in advance, though the specific questions were not disclosed. Aside from the first round of questions, the order of questions is random, ensuring fairness throughout the debate. So we do have a box here with some questions that will be asked in a random fashion while Ms. Teresa will be directing specific questions to each candidate.
Right.
Back to you, Ms. Teresa.
Yeah, thank you so very much, OC. So we have graduated from Mr. Connor and graduated from Orit and now back to OC. And as Orit mentioned, the first round of questions will address the candidate's eligibility and the ability to lead. And Rolston, I will go to you to begin the round. You were previously a member of the Legislative Assembly from 2000 to 2009 and a member of Cabinet from 2009 to 2013 as the Minister of Education, Financial Services and Employment, and Deputy Premier. Leadership in governance requires integrity, sound decision-making, and the ability to serve as a role model for the community. Considering controversies in the past with certain administrations, including the mismanagement, allegations in the education sector, and legal issues related to personal conduct, how do you assure the people of West Bay North that you possess the character and judgment necessary to represent them effectively? And do I need to read it to you again?
No.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for that question, Teresa. For all my life, and certainly in my professional life, including becoming a member of the Legislative Assembly and having that honor bestowed upon me by the people of West Bay, all throughout my professional career, the one thing that I have always maintained is not only a hard work ethic in putting people first, but ensuring that in everything that I did as a professional that represented the people of this country, all that happened within my term as a backbencher, opposition member, and then finally as a minister in cabinet, the work that I put in for the people of these islands can be easily inspected and seen. And in particular in my last term when I was Minister of Education, and look at the body of work that I produced when I was given that honor. Things ranging from having the first Principals Consultative Council, ensuring that we reintroduced reception, the most formative years in education, ensuring that we gave Caymanian children their first time for a second chance when we created SciFec, which should have become the national technical and vocational institution for the country. When I look at all of the important structural changes that we did for at-risk youth by ensuring we not only had the very first at-risk youth register and ensuring that children were safe during those very important times, the 3 to 6 with the national after-school program. That body of work tells me that I have achieved what's needed for the people of the Cayman Islands.
Thank you so very much for that. And they've given me the role of referee with red cards, so that when it looks as though we're going past the 15 minutes, I will kind of 15 seconds, I will kind of circulate it. And I want to say that I do recall having challenging conversations with you about education back in the day when you were minister. And one of the things that I noticed that you sought to introduce is the role of education leadership, looking at students from the time they were 2 years old and following them through to maturity. I say that because I know that that's a conversation I've had. And when things come up like that, I'll kind of chime in. Shakeina, over to you. As a former member of the Central Planning Authority Board, you have had first-hand experience in the decision-making process regarding the development of the Cayman Islands. Given the growing concerns about overdevelopment, skyrocketing property prices, and the struggle for Caymanians to secure affordable housing, what specific policies or reforms would you advocate to ensure that the development in West Bay and the wider Cayman Islands prioritizes the needs for Caymanians while maintaining a sustainable and balanced approach? In other words, how do you envision balance when it comes to maintaining Caymanians' views and, for example, their issues now about housing and the inability to get housing versus sustainable development when we seem to be on a trajectory for unbridled development?
Thank you. It is true. I strongly feel that we're going to get that notice very soon if we continue growing and developing at the rate that we are, that there's no land left in Cayman. We see these large condos, large hotels going up, and in many instances sitting on the planning board, we also saw how difficult it was to stop them because of the law. We saw the policies that tied our hands together, and it was hard to watch it. It's hard to hear the cries of our people, and there are many instances where we tried to halt or slow things down. In regards to land for our people, I think one of the realities we need to look at is that Canada's doing it now, Australia's doing it. It's a ban on foreign investment in land. Yes, there are repercussions to it, like all things, pros and cons, but it will allow us to be able to identify and hold land for the next generations. It's critical that we go into this mode at this point in time because there's farming land that needs to be secured. That's a means of food security and us developing agriculture in our country. But unless we start to look at initiatives like slowing that down and allowing our people to purchase and be homeowners, be landowners, that is a big part of being a part of a community, feeling success, understanding, I am a part of this. I have something here in my own country. We're going to be bought out, sold out, and nowhere to go.
I guess my question as one of the youngsters or the younger persons running in your district, you were mentioning that there are certain legal contradictions when you sat on that board. How do you envision us getting past that when it's actually the politicians who choose and make up those boards?
Yeah, we need to take
running out of time.
We need to take a realistic look at what's really happening. We're having erosion on our beaches. A lot of what's happening now is footings are exposed. You're starting to see foundations. That's actually an environmental hazard. But we're also asking them to plan retreat. But when you look at where a lot of those properties are, plan retreat lands them right in the road. You know, so we need to really start to look at how we're going to come upon a neutral line for that, but also look at where we can stand as Caymanians to be able to ensure that we don't have a mini Miami here. It's not what our people want.
Thank you very much,
Yes, ma'am.
Shakeina. And I'll pass it over now to Mr. Connor.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate our candidate so far. You're doing extremely well. It's also demonstrating the discipline that you have because you're staying within the period of time that we've given you as well. So I want to congratulate both of you for that as well. In the control room, is the sound coming across quite well from each of the candidates as well? I'm told everything is fine. So my next question is for Mr. Jordan Rivers, who is the candidate with the Cayman Islands National Party. Mr. Rivers, West Bay has seen significant development in recent years, raising concerns about overdevelopment, environmental impact, and the potential erosion of community and cultural identity. As someone who advocates for balancing economic growth with environmental responsibility, what specific policies or measures would you implement to ensure that future development in West Bay preserves the district's natural beauty and cultural heritage while still focusing and fostering economic opportunities in the district?
Thank you for the question. As a person that advocates for a lot of environmental concerns and needs, but also understanding the importance of development in the country because it is a driving factor here, I think that a comprehensive national development plan needs to be implemented in this country that takes into account the importance of things like the environmental impact assessments that are so desperately needed. We should not be looking to remove from the EIA, but in turn bolster it. And personally, when it comes to West Bay, and I take a very strong stance on this personally. There's not many hills I'm willing to die on because I understand that compromise is sometimes needed. But I think the unequivocal protection of Barkers is a super important thing to the district. It is not only a heritage site, an environmentally sensitive location, but for not only my professional capacity for over 15 years, but my entire life it has been a playground for me. And I've got to see the beauty of that location. And I do think that we cannot do anything as a government in waiting to destroy that. That is where the strictest of protections need to happen. And that there would open the gateway to further environmental protections like the central mangrove wetland and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm looking to do, is to secure areas that are of critical importance in this country while creating that national development plan that zones areas for agriculture, low and high density residential, commercial, etc., etc. That is what I think would be the fairest and most balanced approach. But we cannot get there unless we actually have a bit of backbone to say that this is the line and we're not going to cross it.
You still have a few seconds, so I'm going to ask a follow-up question to that, which has to do with many would consider West Bay, the district of West Bay now being the hub of development in the Cayman Islands. Lots of development going on there as far as residential and business entities are concerned. Do you have concerns about those as well?
And we have to limit that response.
Yeah, I'll keep it as brief as possible. Yes, it is a growing concern because Cayman is the envy of the Caribbean, and I think we all sitting here can openly agree to that. West Bay has always been a desirable location due to its laid back nature, its scenic views, and the fact that we don't have traffic. But the issue with that is that we have not identified what our carrying capacity for the country is, and we will continue to suffer and pay the price, and traffic will grow until we actually say this is the limit here.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Jermaine Ebanks-Hurlston, given your professional experience as a compliance and reporting service administrator, when it comes to safeguarding the integrity of a financial sector, what specific measures would you advocate for to enhance transparency and ensure robust compliance with international standards?
Thank you for that question. I think that we already have the policies in place, but like all policies that we have brought forward, we lack the policing effort. At the moment, coming off the grey list was very impactful. Some take it for granted, but that allowed us to do business much more easier, much more effective. It opened up the doors for us globally that we can take on more clients and increase revenue. Working in compliance is also exposed to beneficial ownership, and that's a hot topic. I think that when we're looking at beneficial ownership and trying to work with the other governing bodies, SEC, in the European countries, that we have to ensure that we protect the beneficial owners and not to be too transparent, but comply with the regulators. Because I find that if we go too aggressive into that and become reckless with it, that we can definitely damage reputation and lose business long term. So I think that we definitely need to, when we are trying to onboard ideas, look at it holistically and see how we can better meet those objectives, meet those responsibilities without compromising the business.
Mm-hmm. As far, you mentioned beneficial ownership, as far that, do you agree with previous administrations and previous leaders in the Cayman Islands in relation to the stance that they have taken about us moving forward when the rest of the world moves forward, so that we don't lose our competitive advantage by giving into something while others do not subscribe to it?
Unfortunately, this is the world that we're living in right now. We have to comply. We are in partnership with these global arms that we do a lot of business with. So I think that it's very important for us to acknowledge that we are dependent on these jurisdictions for business and not be complacent.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'd only say that partnership assumes equality, and we're not equal. That's just one of those takeaways. Okay, so we're finished with that round of questioning. And now we actually enter a new segment where you guys get to choose. Where you guys choose your questions. Now, as Orit mentioned at the very beginning, we're not giving everybody the same question. We're inviting you actually to discuss issues so that the audience can actually see how flexible you are, your dexterity when it comes to responding to questions that may be challenging, or indeed you might be unfamiliar with some of the issues, but it would be good to see how you respond to questions on your feet. Are we good with that?
Yes. Yeah, I say that's
Sounds
what the
good,
lottery
Teresa.
We signed up for.
So I'll start with you. Shall I start with Rolston or start with Shakeina and go
Thought the
around?
next round
Yeah,
you start with
second round.
Shakeina. That was the rules that I heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yes.
Do we know why Catherine is behaving the way she is?
She wants the rules followed.
Thank you. I'm assuming you read it.
No, you choose it and you read it. And then we'll see. I'll just take them around and
Okay,
take this
you should
road.
read the question.
You read it or
Yeah, I'm gonna read it.
They won't
out.
hear it.
Mhm. See if this don't make sense. So Shakeina chose a question that relates to tourism. What strategies will you implement to foster sustainable tourism growth, balancing the economic benefits of cruise tourism with the higher value opportunities of stayover tourism? You want me to
Repeat that
do it
again,
again?
please.
Mhm. So it's on tourism. What strategies will you implement to foster sustainable tourism growth, balancing the economic benefits of cruise tourism with the higher value opportunities of stayover tourism?
I think that we definitely need to revisit or develop a tourism plan for our country. We need to look at other Caribbean countries who their tourism models are very successful. In West Bay, we have quite a number of persons that depend on that cruise tourism. And I think striking that fine balance to figure out where we can make the most for our people to benefit from it. That balance between those stayover passengers as well as those that come off of the cruise ships. I think we also need to provide grants to allow for small business owners to start to develop these new ideas that can bring business to our country. One of the facts that we know is that layover passenger does more in the country. And when we have issues such as the current traffic issue that we have, it's hard for a cruise passenger to be able to see Cayman in its fullest. But opportunities for new businesses to open. We have tons of young entrepreneurs, great ideas. They just need opportunities to start up. And when we look at small business grants, like many other places in the world do, we need to support our small business owners with opportunities to learn about management and handling their finances, because that's often an area in which they fail.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Do we have any comments from?
I wish I had
yes.
that question.
Would that be a no?
No comment. I think she did really well.
Okay.
Would you like to read that out? And
I most certainly would.
there we go.
Well, you have one. I can do it through here.
You have a mic there?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I can. Okay, so this one deals with immigration reform. So I hope you're ready for this one. That's. I was going to use a term, but I think that term is inappropriate. How will you reform immigration policies to create a fair balance between supporting the needs of the local population and integrating expatriates who contribute to our economy? And I'm going to read this again. How will you reform immigration policies to create a fair balance between supporting the needs of the local population and integrating expatriates who contribute to our economy?
Thank you for that question. I've always been very vocal about this subject in regards to immigration reform, but more so on the aspect of ensuring that we have land available for our children, ensuring that we have equal opportunity for our children, and ensuring that we're enforcing policies that are already in place that allows our children to integrate into positions that are meant to be filled by them. Again, we have policies, no policing. When it comes to the equal opportunities for both expats and Caymanians, we have to come to realization that some jobs may not be applicable for our own people. And that's where we have to start from the early stages to equip them to be able to fill these roles and ensure that we have an actual succession plan for them when it comes to filling those roles and doing so in a timely manner. So putting forward policies that would ensure that we comply properly and create opportunities that are sustainable for our own people, starting from an early age, identifying their strengths and weaknesses, getting them to be a part of programs that would advance them quicker to then fill these roles so we can take a step back from immigration and look at other ways of encouraging revenue.
Thank you very much. Any comments from any member? No? Okay.
Ooh, the lottery. Be crazy if it's a lottery question, huh?
I'll read it for you. Okay. So this one deals with community programs. What initiatives will you prioritize to combat poverty, reduce substance abuse, and empower underprivileged communities across the islands? So, what initiatives will you prioritize to combat poverty, reduce substance abuse, and empower underprivileged communities across the islands?
Thank you for the question. What I think is very important to understand is that we need a lot more involvement on the parental level when it comes to education for the youth. The schools can only do so much as they're only entitled to do so much, right? But it's always been teachers taking that extra step and that extra mile. So I do believe the government needs to facilitate after-school programs, a lot more options to give kids a lot more insight onto how to grow themselves as individuals. I think by naturally doing that and creating a wider variety of areas for them to study and have some sort of, whether it's community-based in sports, education, chess, whatever, it doesn't matter. I think that level of engagement to show the child that they are supported will naturally begin to reduce the levels of drug abuse, alcohol, whatever you want to term it. I think that's a really good way of supporting our youth in the future, is by showing them that you are not abandoned, you are thought for, you are cared for. We have all these facilities in place in order to ensure that you have the brightest future possible. Education is such an important step when it comes to that, because most kids are left to their own devices more times than not. And because of that, what you find is that they usually become victims of peer pressure. and they get influenced a lot by their friends to usually go down the wrong road. So I think creating a system in place that allows them to express themselves in a myriad of creative ways, and they'll naturally come to find what they like, whether that's, like I said, like the before mentioned topics, or things like agriculture. We don't really encourage it. I'd love to see the DARE program become a bigger thing back in school. I had it when I was in school, and I think that helped steer me on a very straight path. Thank you.
And I'll close this round of questioning unless you guys have any questions for each other, with a question that Rolston can choose.
Sure. Public engagement. How will you ensure consistent and meaningful engagement with all Caymanians, fostering transparency and inclusivity in the decision-making process? Well, that question is quite easy for me to answer. If you look at my manifesto, I am proposing that I will have a very comprehensive approach to an advisory district council, where the district council will have a chairman and will have various subcommittees, including employment, including entrepreneurship, access to services such as NAU, elderly services, development services within the district. And that council will be supported by whoever is chosen by me as an MP to run the district office. Why is that important? You have to ensure that the council has the type of administrative support and has a direct link to the Member of Parliament. A district council is meant to build that inclusivity and ensure that people actually have a voice in the day-to-day running of the district. Once you do that, you will then have a perfect scenario where a Member of Parliament can concentrate his or her efforts on being a parliamentarian and, if chosen, being a minister in cabinet, while the district or local issues are being cared for, investigated, monitored, and suggestions being made by your advisory district council. The advisory district council has been talked about for many years in Cayman, and certainly the excuse that has been made is that the legislation isn't fit for purpose. Well, the legislators can change the legislation, and so an advisory district council is a critical way to ensure that inclusivity in the decision-making process in our governance model.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent round. Now, Mr. Risa, I'm going to ask you to draw another question from the box. And those candidates who are pro-lottery, pro-gambling in the Cayman Islands, you've gotten an opportunity to practice a little game of chance tonight as well. So if you draw the next one, and I'll read it.
Would push gambling.
It's going to be. We started with. Yes, it's going to be Mr. Ebanks. Jermaine Ebanks next. Okay. So here we go.
I'm sure he didn't say anything about gambling being legal.
Not at all.
We didn't hear him say it.
Preventative health care. Mr. Ebanks, what specific programs and public awareness campaigns will you launch to improve access to preventative health care and encourage healthier lifestyles for residents?
Thank you for that question. Speaking on healthcare and finding ways to promote options for people to find avenues to participate in environments is also important. When you speak about healthcare, I also factor in the mental aspect of it. We've had multiple discussions, multiple programs run during the months or the parts of the year, promoting the welfare and the mental health welfare, incorporating locations that offer a safe space for people to go out, exercise, i.e. Barcas. I've spoke about this recently again. And just to let the public know, my manifesto has been available for 2 weeks, and within that, there's a lot of details and solutions. But going back to healthcare, one of the things that I've always been puzzled by is that post-COVID, we've seen where people have been more health conscious. And insurance is a hot topic. It is very tricky to deal with. But what I would like to see insurance companies do is incentivize those persons who are taking that conscious effort to be more healthier by giving them an end of year check or some sort of bonus to kind of help promote it, because that money return can also be used for other aspects within their daily expenses. But more like overall, I just think that we are on the right track when it comes to every one of us being health conscious. There's still some work to be done, but we need to find ways to encourage it in a safe space. So securing location like the Barcus and other points of destination where we can use those areas for activities.
And candidates, don't forget, once a topic is presented to either candidate, if you want to rebut or want to add something to that, you're certainly welcome to do so as well. It doesn't have to be confrontational. It doesn't have to be controversial. You may have an opinion or an idea that adds to something else as well. So the next question will be for Mr. Jordan Rivers. Education. How will you transform the education system to better prepare our youth for the future job market, particularly in light of evolving technologies like artificial intelligence and green energy?
Thank you for the question. I think we first have to look at the problem that we have laying in front of us. We have a lot of undue influence inside of the schools when you have the mixing of grades and whatnot. We have to first establish what jobs are actually here for our youth to come back home to, and encourage them by creating classwork for them to actually aspire to fill those roles. We have to understand what we're building this country for. So when we send them off, especially when they are government funded through scholarships, we have to rebond them back to that to ensure that they actually have genuine work when they come back here. You can also create programs with, and this will fall into public-private partnerships, where you can work with any kind of industry that child has gone off to study, and ensure that they have a role to come back to. Because in order for us to give them that life skill and give them that career path, they first have to have that opportunity. And I think we've lacked drastically with that. As an individual that's looked into how the education system has operated for quite some time, I think it's imperative that we look towards removing education as a factor from under the political arm of government. We need to create a council, we need to create a commission that actually overviews that, so government may fund it and we can actually move forward with that, but you have educators being able to be educators. By structuring it that way now, it removes a lot of political interference, political footballs. We can no longer afford to have the future of the children in this country at the behest of politicians that may use it as that sort of political football. So I think by removing that, and we put and furthermore, to educate the young ones, if we install things like civics at a very core level, they'll understand how their country operates from the ground level, and then they'll grow with it, much like how I grew with it when I've learned from 11 years old how this country started to operate, and I started to participate in that same fabric. So I think doing the culmination of those things will give our children a much brighter future that is unburdened from interference and or rather undue influence from the outside perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Conner, just on that point, to add to what Jordan has said, and more directly to the question, one of the key things that we have failed to do is to implement phase 2 of SciFec. The fact is, whilst overseas students and how we ensure they are reintegrated is critically important, the vast majority of students don't actually go off on a scholarship. And so we need to ensure that SciFec is finally the National Tech Voc Training Institution, so that everyone is assigned an apprenticeship. And so in doing that, every single child in their last year at SciFec, and under my proposals, we would finally move to a school education leaving age of 18, so that children stop coming out of the government system. And that's what's happening right now. We're graduating people who are not even adults. And if you're not an adult, you're a child. And so we need to have those pathways in the system so that people can then transition to the world of work.
And Mr. Anglin, while you have the mic, the next question.
Are we able to?
Yeah. Sure. If you want to.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Go right ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. You got an answer.
So I do think that's a very valid point that was raised by that, because that's what I've noticed with the U.S. system, is that the U.S. system allows them to leave school at 18, so they go straight into the workforce. I think what needs to be added to that, though, is that if we're going to even consider looking into that by keeping them back a further 2 years, that's where we need to replace things like the level 1 diploma with technical vocational educational training. That way that when they leave school, they are equipped to handle anything. I think that's a very important thing, because if we're going to change an entire system that we've become accustomed to, that needs to be a core value and fundamental aspect of why we're keeping them there.
Okay.
As a teacher, good point, Jordan. As a teacher, one of the things you recognize is that you can tell those students are going to struggle a bit more as they get into selecting their classes from an early age, and I'm talking year 9, year 10. I think that the VTech programs are definitely needed. I think that we can even say that we're going to put it in a bit earlier in the system versus waiting till SciFec, because there's applied learning in math and English, where you're learning your math through the activities that you do. You're learning your English through the activities that you do. And that does help significantly. But what it does, it gives our children opportunity to get their hands involved in those technical trades for 2-3 years. And then you're looking at an apprenticeship work. And at that point, they're coming out with a diploma that gives them, an opportunity not to start at necessarily the bottom of the totem pole, but somewhere higher than that, giving them opportunity to start their lives if they choose not to go into tertiary education. But that ties us back to immigration reform. When we look at the number of white-collar and blue-collar jobs out there that do not require anything more than a high school diploma or a technical diploma, and we need to make sure that they're valid in the system, our employers are going to take them. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's all right. I got the red card. It's okay.
I mean,
Yes,
Connor has
Mr.
made some very valid points in regarding TVET as well. I think that we need to acknowledge that, as Shakeina has just said, is the aftermath. Where do we go from that point? I made a suggestion many times of creating a full-on trade school that had the access to international accepted curriculums, providing that, because I think, I promote this more and more, we have to take a step away from depending highly on immigration as a revenue. Having a professional institution that allows us to open our doors for people to come here and study, that's a revenue maker for us, and it will ensure that our children can then in adulthood can broaden the horizon. And again, just so everyone can understand, master plumbers can make up to $150,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's money to be made in these industries. We just need to educate our children and also nourish their skills.
Okay. The next question, Mr. Anglin. Climate change. What immediate and long-term actions will you take to mitigate the effects of climate change, particularly in protecting our vulnerable coastlines and improving disaster resilience?
A very good question. And so we have seen over the last few years what has happened, not just with 7 Mile Beach, but with other coastlines where we've seen significant changes and shifts. For Cayman, we need to take a wholesale look at how our planning regulations are being actually governed and ensure that the actual physical building doesn't continue to interrupt with our coastline, and cause detrimental damage to our coastlines. Long term and big picture for us, we also have to ensure that as we continue to grow as a community, and that is Caymanians are having children, and so that means we have to ensure that we're providing for the children of Caymanians, that we build smarter and allow different building methodologies to continue to be in the country. We also need to continue to monitor lot sizes. I think all of us would have traveled and seen, visited family in the US, for example, where they look at lot sizes very, very differently because they want to create a sustainable community. And for an island that's so small, we need to also do that. But more specifically, one of the things that's critical for us as a country to reduce our footprint, one of the proposals that I'm making is that we implement a partnership with the private sector, whereby we extract CO2 gases from the stacks at CUC and have our own on-island national air separation unit so that we not only reduce our footprint, but also create on island very important medical gases that we critically need. And during COVID, we almost hit disaster on that front.
Okay, anyone else want to?
Regarding the public and private partnerships, in my practice, we always look at those types of ventures as high risk because it opens up a lot of doors for corruption. And we've seen through the various years of when there's an overlap in Cayman, there's either bills are not being done properly or there's mismanagement or misappropriation of funds. We need to be very strategic when it comes to the PPPs. And my suggestion overall, if we can avoid that, i.e. the landfill, for example, hot topic, we should have taken the same approach as we did with CUC when they first came here. We allowed that establishment to be run as a publicly traded entity to allow Caymans to buy into stocks, to have waste to energy renewable, waste to energy options, and create revenue as well for themselves.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you for that. And this one is for Ms. Bush.
Yes, sir.
In May of 2023, Parliament gave its support to a motion to include a West Bay High School in their next budget. How would you ensure that the budget for a new high school in West Bay is managed efficiently and that the costs do not spiral out of control, as has been alleged to be the situation in the sister islands?
Thank you. First and foremost, that initiative is very much needed in West Bay. The management of that, it boils down to transparency. It boils down to ensuring that there's always checks and balances and that there's always a fair process established as to how you take quotes or bids for a project. Having a background in construction and understanding that construction is one of those fields that is not necessarily regulated very well, because it's a government project, we need to, like in all areas of government, ensure that transparency happens extremely well, extremely bold and eliminates a lot of those private, those special interest tap-ins. The need for a school in West Bay, definite must. And we've watched as the sister islands gets heat for what's happening now. We need to understand numbers. What's the true size that we're looking for? What is a short-term plan, a medium-term plan, and a long-term plan? I think planning ahead to look at what the growth could look like in West Bay in, say, 40 years to ensure that that need is met still with the investment we make is critical.
Yeah, I do agree with having the districts be more utilized when it comes to education. Having these facilities in close proximity to people in the district will limit traffic. Also, if we're able to identify how many civil servants are working within certain allotments within the district, we can also find locations where we can lease to allow our civil servants to work at central locations closest to the schools as well in each district. And again, that also contributes to CO2 emissions and also traffic as well that we always complain about.
I'd like to touch on that real
Sure.
quick.
Mm-hmm.
So just adding to that, to ensure that we actually get not only value for money, what I've noticed personally is that we tend to have an issue where, and let me say this first and foremost, I am not opposed to a person either owning multiple businesses or having multiple roles. What I am opposed to is that when you are as an elected official, your job that, let's say now I'll use myself for an example, I have a horseback riding company. That has nothing to play in terms of my role as a minister or an MP inside of government. But when you get in there, we don't trade stocks in this country. We don't have insider trading to that capacity. We have insider trading when it comes to development. So a lot of ministries tend to have a lot of tent funds that are usually not paid attention to, or you can have X amount of discretionary funds inside of there. What I'm finding is that this is what leads to a lot of political corruption when those persons find the niche markets inside of the government. They create services to actually service the government. So not only are they getting paid by the people to represent the people, they're creating businesses that are completely leeching off of government further. And furthermore, and then adding to that as well too, they are allowing a lot of their friends by giving them preferred contracts or preferred bidders to come and do that. So that's where you constantly find yourself running into an overdraft with government.
Thank you. Thank you.
On that point, it's very clear that, of course, the island's secondary education places are already at capacity. And so a third high school is definitively needed. And certainly, given the fact that we not only have had plans over the years to have one in West Bay, and given the fact that West Bay is the third biggest district, it only makes sense that the next secondary education institution would be in the district of West Bay. As it relates, though, specifically to the question that was asked, when we look at how our bid process actually works, one of the things that the next government is going to have to do is to look at how the private sector procures and is able to deliver projects, most times 30 and 40% cheaper than government. And so government needs to look at its procurement process and ensure that it doesn't continue to get ripped off just because of how the process works.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. T, we're going to alternate again.
Okay.
I hope to remember who's next.
Mr. OC, you can keep this and hang out with these people.
I don't,
Who is next?
I'm just living life right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next question, so Rolston, we started with you. So do we
No.
go with Shakeina? Was it Rolston you started
I
with?
just called.
No, just
No.
Shakeina. We go to.
You all actually skipped me, but that's fine.
Oh, no, we can't have
No,
that.
no. What
I was the last question. I was the last question on one of the on that round, but that's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Sustainable development. How will you balance development with environmental protection? And what policies will you introduce to reduce the ecological impact of key sectors like tourism and construction?
That goes to Ms. Bush.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ask the question.
Ask it again, please.
So we will do what these folks have suggested because I did go to you and they told me to go to this gentleman. So I will repeat it for you, Shakeina.
Okay.
All right. How will you balance development with environmental protection? And what policies will you introduce to reduce the ecological impact of key sectors like tourism and construction?
We know that the balance needs to be struck. Currently, the gem that we have of 7 Mile Beach is now being absolutely destroyed. We're looking at a lost beach ridge. We're looking at constant erosion due to dragging of beach chairs. I've even gone as far as seeing people walking out in through the airport with a bottle full of sand with them. And this is a concerning matter. We do need to identify that development plan and what it looks like to implement it finally in this country. We've sat on it, and it has now come to a scream from our people in regards to how we're going to protect our gem.
Well, what policies would you consider that are important to address this? Give us some examples.
Like I said, policies in regards to it, I think we have a lot of good that's going on currently that we're trying to get in place. We just need to implement them. And in Cayman, like I said, we have limited land space. We have limited areas for hotel tourism. We have limited areas for tourism. We have limited areas for residential, agriculture, and so forth. We just need to ensure that, one, we are looking at every single one of those zoning options on the table before we start to make implementations, before we start to push policies on people not understanding how it's going to affect our tourism industry, how it's going to affect our housing for our young people, how it's going to affect our hotel tourism industry. So it's not necessarily one particular thing that we need to look at. We actually need to have a full overhaul of what policies are currently there and how we're going to look at what has been effective and what has been ineffective.
Okay, thanks, Shakeina. Yep.
As we know, we're a maritime country, and one of the things that always bothers me is that with so much development happening on the coastal line, we're now infringing on our heritage. There's going to be a limitation in the long term where people will have gain access to the waterline to be able to fish, to be able to provide for themselves if they want to have for leisure, and it's definitely a concern of mine because at some point in time, there is a breaking mark. And I think that we need to take a step back from allowing these big developers to come in and occupy the waterline, and also kind of give our people more options, again, including beach access. There's not enough beach access, and if there is, it's not properly maintained, so that needs to be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Just on that point, the need for a national development plan is critical. However, specifically as it relates to actual policy positions that we need to take, firstly, we need to ensure that land acquisition using the Environmental Protection Fund is finally comes to fruition. We have to acquire, if we're going to keep Barkers in the state that it's in, we have to acquire the land. Government does not own the land at present, and the only way to ensure you're going to preserve it is to acquire it. Central Vancouver wetlands, we still do not own enough, and that is the key habitat that drives the entire ecological engine for Cayman. That has been proven, and so government needs to go on a land acquisition agenda. We also need to look at lot sizes, as I said earlier, setbacks, and ensuring that setback requirements are strictly adhered to. And last but by no means least, vertical farming. We keep talking about farming and what agriculture looks like in a modern world isn't just about sticking plants in the ground, but ensuring that we're using modern technologies like vertical farming to ensure we get food security and limit the ecological damage that it can cause.
Yeah, I was actually going to hope somebody would mention the perpetuities law, but no one did. But there we go. Thanks everyone.
Can I just
sure.
touch on that real quick? I don't disagree that we need to go on a mass acquisition of land, but what I would like to see is a balancing of the scales when it comes to that. Government has in its remit the ability to either compulsory purchase or compulsory acquire land for the sake of development. We are extremely lacking in this country when it comes to those same laws being to balance the scales when it comes for the sake of conservation. In my time on the National Trust Council, I looked at a lot of these things because I'm always looking at how do I acquire Barkers in full. That's a real goal of mine, and I don't just say that as I'm sitting here. I've been in Barkers my entire life. I want to see that maintain itself. But what I understand is that for the sake of development and what has led to overdevelopment, we have severely crippled our ability to acquire either compulsory acquire or compulsory purchase land for the sake of conservation. So if we're going to look at doing that mass acquisition, we have to make sure that the laws are bolstered in order to be able to do that in full.
Okay, thanks very much. So, Jermaine, you're the flavor of the month. Education and training. What long-term investments will you make to enhance educational and vocational training programs that empower Caymanians to thrive in an increasingly competitive global workforce? And I'll repeat that. What long-term investments will you make to enhance educational and vocational training programs that empower Caymanians to thrive in an increasingly competitive global workforce?
Thank you for the question. As I said before, I think coming to the realization that we have a lot of white-collar jobs in Cayman Islands, and we, over time, a lot of our children had lost interest in tourism, and this is unfortunate. I think that implementing a program at the trade school that will allow our children to participate in the tourism market, incentivizing them to go to school, it would be very crucial. I think it's important that we acknowledge that we've put ourselves in this position, so we have to offer as much assistance as possible to get our children back involved with tourism. It is a lifeline. When it comes to other programs, overall, I think that we can work in partnership closely with the private sector to understand what the business environment is asking for, identifying children at an early stage, again, from grade 11 to grade 12, doing internal surveys at the schools to understand where do you want to go after high school? Do you want to go after school, or do you choose to want to pick up a trade? Getting this information early will allow us to be able to go out and start making having those conversations, building that partnership with individuals and the firms via Chamber of Commerce and all other conglomerates to understand how we can allocate these children, and also, as I said before, just promoting a trade school more and more.
Okay, thank you.
On that point, we must ensure that we're strategic. we have the makings of a national trade school. We have the plant, we have the facility. We need to change the education law to ensure that the Cayman Islands Further Education Center morphs into our national trade school, and that that we ensure that every child then has to be enrolled in their final year of education in an apprenticeship or a traineeship. And what we have to do in terms of programming is use the model I use at Superior Auto. We go to the private sector. We ensure that the private sector works hand in hand with government to create what is the accepted qualification. Because the last thing you want to do is make it up and then the private sector say this is not appropriate. Once our children go through that, we then have to have mandatory participation. Otherwise, you don't get access to work permits.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
They'd like for you to just repeat the question one more time.
Oh, sorry.
Well, that's not the same one. Yeah.
No, I put it
right
here.
This one? That one, yeah. I think it's that one.
No, this one's climate change.
No.
Here it is. Yeah. What long-term investments will you make to enhance educational and vocational training programs that empower Caymanians to thrive in an increasingly competitive global workforce?
Okay, so thank you for that. I'm just going to add to this, and I'll keep it as short as possible.
Thank
I
you.
think we need to bolster that by ensuring that there are Caymanian-only jobs in it. If we're going to talk about tourism field, that's something that we built. Every one of us here as West Bayers understand that we had a very big role to play in that. So I think in order to ensure that the children coming out of school have the actual opportunities to go to work, it is about securing certain facets of the business and the workforce that is only for them, because tourism, of the product of tourism, can only be given to its fullest when you actually have a native doing it for you. We have to stop importing persons for things like that naturally we are capable of. We've grown this. I can tell you from the time my grandmother served the Queen both times on her visit here, we have always held the highest standards in this country for things like tourism. And I think we need to look at diversifying how much things we actually secure in this country for our Caymanian citizens.
Thanks.
We're getting near to the end of the debate, and we want to give each candidate an opportunity for some closing comments as well. Want to make sure that we have enough time to do that. Do we have enough time, control room, for one more question before we go? Okay. I'm told we have enough time for one more question. So one more pull, Miss Teresa. It's going to be with Jordan.
Piece of cake.
Okay, we'll see.
Small businesses. What policies will you implement to nurture small businesses and entrepreneurs, ensuring their resilience in a changing and challenging economic landscape?
Thank you for the question. Hopefully I can answer that as eloquently. One thing I've seen as a small business owner and someone that works with my family is that there's not a lot of governmental support when it comes to that. We can give millions of dollars of concessions to foreign developers that actually have the money to come here and develop this country. But we have the CIDB, Cayman Islands Development Bank, that assists to an extent, but it's always an overdraft. There's not a dedicated government-funded source to assist with things like that. I think by ensuring certain protections when it comes, and I'm going to say this specifically from the tourism perspective, ensuring that there is certain non-competitory factors when you can't, and I say that by saying this, when it comes to entities like that, we have to ensure that those are protected for our people, because that is a heritage-based role in this country. Like I said earlier, no one can give a better service when it comes to our tourism product, which comes with the heritage, the experience, the advice, and the guidance, than our people. And that's why I think it needs to be secured. If you take that and actually have things like the Department of Tourism actually listen to the persons that are on the ground working to help shape what the Cayman tourism product looks like, I promise you, you will see Caymanian businesses flourish, because we understand what our product is. We just need an active ear that's willing to listen and work with us in order to give the best international product right here at home.
Thank you very much. Any comments from anyone?
Well, certainly, Jordan is quite right. The lack of support and strategic support has been one that we have not embraced. And that support does not only need to be financial, coaching, training on financial literacy for small businesses to ensure that small businesses are organized in a way to be able to survive. But to touch on tourism, one of the proposals I have in my manifesto is that for small businesses in tourism, that restriction on business licenses be adopted and go in line with what is a generational Caymanian. And so that is that any small business in tourism would only be able to be occupied by a generational Caymanian, because what is happening in the industry is you have persons who get Caymanian status, and they may be a lawyer, an accountant, and they then fund a tourism business for their brother-in-law from Timbuktu, being the Caymanian partner, and they come here and then operate the business. We've seen that as one of the biggest growth areas in small businesses and tourism, and that practice just needs to be stamped out. One way to do it, one way to give an advantage to Caymanians.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okay, we are running out of time. Time goes fast when you're having fun, but we want to give each candidate 2 minutes for some closing comments as well, which means that we're going to go, based on my watch, we're going to go over a little bit over. So what we're going to do, assign each candidate 2 minutes for their closing comments, and as we have done before, doing it in alphabetical order, starting with Mr. Rolston Anglin.
The next election has great consequences for our country. I keep hearing this. We're approaching where we are actually beyond crisis. We're beyond crisis with immigration. That's why we need to reintroduce a 7-year hard rollover policy. That's why we need to ensure that this community is given its time to breathe and have a moratorium placed on the grant of Caymanian status and permanent residency by tenure. We need to immediately do away with the $500,000 investment that automatically gets you 30 points with permanent residency applications. When it comes to education, we must continue to work diligently on early childhood care and education. Those are the most crucial years, and our next spend need to also be at fully implementing a national trade school in this country and stop talking about it, and ensure that we have apprenticeships and traineeships that lead to employment. We also have to ensure that as we continue to build out Cayman, we recognize that we have to protect our environment, and in doing so, it will be an investment for our future generations. It is the reason tourists come here, but we also need to ensure that our people are promoted in such a way that they are going to participate in that very, very important industry as we try to reclaim a brand that has been lost, unfortunately. We also need to ensure that financial services is protected, as is the key lifeblood to government revenue and Caymanians.
Thank you.
Ms. Bush?
Thank you. Cayman needs strong leaders. Cayman needs change. We sit and we listen to our people, and we hear that the place that they're in, the cries, the screams, and if you're listening carefully, they're worried about the next generation and how they're going to even start to fathom how to survive in our own country. Immigration reform needs to happen. It is a spiderweb effect that has so many, such a chokehold on so many other areas in our system. Our people are desperate to work. They want the jobs. Our people want to go out there and fight and support their families. They want to be able to have land. But we need leaders that are going to fight for that too. We need leaders that hear the hearts of our people and go out there and do whatever it takes, even the hard decisions. Understanding, yes, there may be repercussions, but our people cannot be the ones taking those hits. So
Sorry. Oh, you still have time.
So we need to continue to step up. I always heard the phrase growing up, step up, step out, but don't sit there and clog the pipes. And it's actually wonderful to sit here and see so many young people across our country stepping in to try and be a voice. And hearts back at you, Jordan. And it is beautiful to know that we are of a generation that now feels that squeeze, feels that pain, hears our people, and genuinely want to make change.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ebanks-Hurlston.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. These are not subjects that just came up overnight. These have been on the table for quite some time. They went through various administrations with no action, no real solution, just a band-aid on the issue. I think that this election is a major turning point if we're going to go further down the rabbit hole or if we're going to find the light at the end of the tunnel. We have a huge role, huge responsibility. And I want to stress this. This is a job. This is a job. And the people of this country are those who employ us. It's not the other way around. And I want to ask all the voters out here to pay close attention to your environment. Pay close attention to the conversations you entertain. Be very careful. Be very vigilant. Because this election we have to get it right. Our children are depending on us to get it right once and for all. So that's my cry out to all the voters. Experience, I agree to an extent. But what has experience led us to today? Turmoil. So we have to take a stance together and move forward in the right direction. Change is good. Change is necessary.
Mr. Rivers.
Firstly, I want to start by thanking you all for hosting these democratic proceedings. I want to also thank your staff for being as timely as possible. But I think I would just leave this with a message for the wider country, but in particular the next generation. I have put myself forward to represent you because I understand what you need to succeed, and I want to be that person to stand there and fight for you every single day for the next 4 years and beyond if elected. I need you to understand that we have not been given opportunities in this country, but I'm going to ensure that we have a place in this country. You have a seat at this table. I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that we are heard and our voices are recognized and actually respected, because for far too long people have made decisions against us instead of for us. It's been decisions for pocket, not for people, and I'm here to help stop that. I have a really good team working with the Cayman Islands National Party. We have persons on every echelon of life that are waiting to serve you because they're hungry for it. They understand exactly what kind of issues you've been dealing with your entire life because they themselves had to deal with it. So we are here together as a team to fight for you in this country. What I'd like to finish with that is that things may be hard, things may seem bleak at times, but I promise you, we are going to fight for you because we have lived it ourselves. Experience, as Jermaine has said recently here, experience is not everything. Opportunity is everything, because the most unlikely person can really surprise you if you just give them a chance. And that's what I'm here to do for you guys. I'm here to give us a chance at a future the way we have proper, true, transparent representation in this country, accountable representation in this country. I just want to thank you all for tonight. It was absolutely wonderful. I want to thank the other candidates here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Well, candidates, on behalf of the people of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman and its staff, my co-moderator as well, I want to thank you for making yourselves available to the people of the Cayman Islands to demonstrate your skills, to demonstrate your ability to speak clearly, to speak firmly, your grasp of the various issues that face the Cayman Islands. Also, for the decorum that you have displayed during this debate as well. It was easy for any of you to go at the throats of your opponents in this election, in this campaign, but you have not done that. And if what you've done here, demonstrates what's taken place on the campaign circuit in your district, in your constituency, then it's all for the better for the people of the Cayman Islands, because that is what we want. We want to have meaningful debates, peaceful debates at the same time. Everyone gets an opportunity to be heard, and everyone is prepared to listen as well. So on this historic occasion here at Radio Cayman, again, I want to thank you all very much.
Thank you too.
I think you can give yourself a round of applause as well.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, folks, the next debate involving West Bay Central has been slightly amended, as the incumbent candidate, Ms. Catherine Ebanks-Wilkes of the Caymanian Community Party, is unable to attend. Accordingly, we will be having an interview with Ms. Jewel Hydes, and we have invited her to participate in this interview with Ms. Theresa Pitcairn and myself as well. We will try to present certain questions to her, but as you can appreciate, she will be here by herself, not with any other opposing candidate. And we apologize for that, but we want to ensure that she has an opportunity to talk to the people of the Cayman Islands, to talk to the members of her constituency as well. And after this short transition, we will start the interview with her. Again, thanks to our candidates.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
Come on, let me in. I can't cope with Karen in the office no more, man. Another day of her can drive me mad. I got so much laundry to do home. Oh, another message? Man, is traffic not moving today or what? Come on, let me in now.
Life is all about the choices we make to deal with the office Karens or sit in this long traffic, or a choice to pursue your dreams to improve your future. UCCI. It's not the classes, the grades, or a piece of paper. It's your ticket for the adventure of your choice. The choice to live your dream. Stop waiting on the path. Visit www.ucci.edu.ky. Choose your dream and blaze your trail today.
Hey, Cayman parents, we get it. You're underslept, over-trafficked. You can barely find your sanity in the morning because you're still trying to find your kids' shoes and lunch boxes. Let Yum take some of the stress away. Every day, over 3,000 students enjoy delicious, nutritious meals from Yum. Over 5 million lunches served and counting. Private school parents, browse the Yum Cayman app and order up to a month in advance or last minute by 12 a.m. the night before. Government school students, just drop by the Yum canteen. No pre-orders needed. Yum can't help you find your sanity, but we can sure make your mornings just a bit easier. Check out daily menus at myschoolpos.com or visit yumcayman.ky to learn more.
It's March Madness at Reflections. Shop the red tag sale until the end of March at Reflections. Save on kids, men's, and women's selected style shoes and sneakers. Brands like Nike, Puma, Reebok, and Dockers 50% off. Adidas 60% off. Ladies jeans in select styles at 50% off. And ladies tops from $9.99. Men step out in your Levi's $5.50. Now 25% off. All accessories and handbags 50% off. Shop the March Madness Red Tag Sale at Reflections all month long and be entered to win 2 Cayman Airways tickets. That's mad!
At At Enterprise Cayman, we're connecting ambitious minds with real-world opportunities. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, tech enthusiast, or looking to expand your network, we've got the tools, training, and community to help you thrive. From career-boosting internships to hands-on startup support, this is where innovation begins. Don't miss out on the upcoming hackathon happening May 10th. Explore this and more today at enterprisecayman.ky. Enterprise Cayman. Innovate, connect, grow.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
The following is a paid political broadcast. The views, information, or opinions expressed in this forum are solely those of the participants of this event and do not represent the views of the management and staff of Radio Cayman.
Good evening from Radio Cayman's studio. For those of you who are just joining us, this is the second segment of our debate. This segment was intended to be a debate as well, with the two candidates vying for the seat in the constituency of West Bay Central. As I said at the closing of the first debate, unfortunately, the incumbent candidate for the constituency was unable to attend tonight. So we do have Miss Jewel Hydes in the studio. She is an independent candidate seeking to represent the constituency of West Bay Central in our parliament following the results of the upcoming general election on the 30th of April of this year. So first of all, we're going to ask Ms. Hydes to introduce herself, and after that, we're going to basically have a roundtable discussion with her. We still have some questions in our box, and we will choose again randomly some of those questions for her as well. So we're asking you to please be considerate, because she's here by herself as opposed to having another candidate to compete with. Ms. Hydes, good evening. Welcome to our debate.
Good evening, OC, and good evening, Teresa. On behalf of my executive committee, I would like to thank Radio Cayman for allowing me this opportunity to come before and speak to the wider Cayman Islands, not only West Bay Central, but to speak to the entire Cayman Islands and allow them to become more familiar with myself. And for those who know me, my name is Jewel Hydes, and I am from the beautiful district of West Bay, and I'm proud to say that I am from Mount Pleasant. And I know my Mount Pleasant people are listening to me right now, so I'm very proud to say that, because Mount Pleasant means a lot to me. I grew up there. West Bay Central has been my home all of my life. My parents grew up there, raised me there, and I also now live in West Bay Central, so I'm not leaving West Bay anytime soon. So for a little background information, I am a certified public accountant. I have my ACAMS, which is basically a compliance specialist certification. I am an advocate for all things living, that's including humans and animals. So anyone who knows me knows that I am an animal lover, and I just love humans and animals. So I am a defender of both of those.
Okay. And tell us what inspired you to become a candidate in these elections.
Thank you for that question. OC, I have put myself forward for many reasons, but some of the reasons I've put myself forward is for the unemployed Caymanian, the retiree who doesn't have health care insurance, the young person who desires to own a home, the family who's struggling to buy groceries. These are just some of the reasons why I've decided to put myself forward. The people in West Bay, in particular West Bay Central, where I am trying to become the MP for, have seen little to no change in the last 4 years. The people they have the weight of inaction on them. You can see it in their faces. They are so hurt, they are stressed, and they want a different type of leadership. And I decided to put myself forward because I am that different leader. I am the leader that will work for them. I am the leader that will bring results, positive results to their family. So that is why I put myself forward.
Ms. Teresa, you have a question for her?
So I'm just here just thinking of the Jewel that I worked with a few years ago. And she comes across as that person who is articulate and effective and so on. And I was very reflective as to why she was running, and she said to me, I had to make a change and put myself forward. And I said, kudos to you. Kudos to you. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Of course, many people are saying that the Cayman Islands are at a crossroads when it comes to these elections as well. Can you speak to some of the issues that you see facing the Cayman Islands at a constituency level, as far as West Bay is concerned, and then island-wide as well?
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, from January this year, I have been doing canvassing, in particular in the West Bay Central area. And some of the recurring themes that I have picked from the constituents in my conversations with them, one of their main concerns is speeding, another one is crime, and the final one is unemployment. The reason they've selected speeding, because some of the roads in West Bay tend to be very narrow. So you don't have a lot of road width on each side, depending on what part of West Bay you're located in. And you have people in there speeding 40, 50 miles per hour. And these are areas that children play, houses are, so they're residential areas. So in order to address the speeding issue, one of the things I'm going to propose is actually reducing the speed limit from 40 to say 25, and also, if possible, put in some speed bumps to slow the traffic down so that we protect our children and our families. The other issue, as I mentioned, was crime. And they're not wrong with that, because crime in West Bay has actually increased. I've researched in the police crime and traffic report, and they've actually indicated that crime has went up in the district of West Bay specifically. And I'm sure a lot of your audience that's listening now, they have heard of numerous robberies at different stores, whether it's Macross, whether it's the store by the four-way near John Gray Church. There's been recurring crimes, whether it's commercial or whether it's in people's homes. So they're not wrong with that. And the way I intend to tackle that is how more police presence in the district. And also, we need to get the West Bay Police Station built. That has been talked about, and it hasn't been completed. Hasn't even been started, I should say. The police are operating in a building that I consider to be dilapidated and in very poor conditions. So how can police effectively monitor crime when they're not even working in a proper environment? They should be given more tools. The community policing needs to increase as well. But that is just some of the things that I will. Sorry, my mouth gets a bit dry.
Go right ahead.
And while you drink, do we know why there's the increase in crime in West Bay?
The report didn't indicate that, but I have based on talking with the constituents, a lot of people are unemployed. And as my brother always shared with me, a hungry man is an angry man. So somebody's they're going to do something to get food, and stuff like that. So I think once we curb and deal with the unemployment there, I think we will see a reduction in the crime activity that's happening, like the robberies in the convenience stores and stuff like that. And, I think once we do that, you will see that on a decline. But overall, in the island, all crime has increased according to the report.
Do we know why?
Not specifically. I only have my assumptions on why I think it's going on.
Any other question from you at this moment?
No.
Oh, and I want I didn't get to. I said crime, speeding, crime, and unemployment.
Yes.
So the other one was unemployment, and I've met numerous people, different ages varying, from young to middle age, my age, and older individuals who can still work. They are struggling to find employment, and some of them are actually university graduates. That has to stop in this country, OC and Teresa. We have to develop a plan that the government knows, because a lot of these get government scholarships, and I give full kudos to the government for the number of scholarships that they give. It's really great. It's really great. I think where we're falling down is when we send them off to college and then they graduate, we're not as aggressive to get them into the government system to actually work. If we want them to have the option to go and work in the private sector, we need to start that dialogue with the private sector to say, we have 10, 15 students coming back from university. What employment options do you have? What positions do you have available that these students can seek employment? It's a growing problem, and we need to get that addressed, because these are people that are coming back with their bachelor's and master's degree. I spoke to a young man who had his master's, and he told me he has applied for, I don't know, in the last 6 months, must be like 20 jobs. And he got called for one interview out of the 20. And then they said to him, you're overqualified. We've heard that before too. So this is one of the things that I would like to address once once the people of West Bay Central give me that opportunity of serving for them.
Okay. Now, later on during the discussion, we're going to pull some questions, randomly from a box that we have there.
Okay.
So since it's random, we're not sure what the questions are. Some of the things that you've spoken to already may come up again.
Okay.
And don't mind repeating yourself, because sometimes, the emphasis is good. The repetition, allows you to maintain that emphasis. Now, you have chosen to contest the elections in your constituency as an independent candidate. After nomination day, I counted, I think it was 19 out of 59 candidates were independent candidates. Since then, we have had one candidate withdraw, so it's down to 58. Based on the past experience in terms of a government comprised mainly of independent candidates, what are your plans if you are elected in terms of coalescing with some group to ensure that you have a say at the table?
Yeah, you are correct that I am an independent candidate, and there are 58 persons vying for those 19 seats. And I am hoping that West Bay Central gives me that opportunity to represent and fight for them. And once April the 30th passes and we're into May the 1st, and I am the new MP for West Bay Central, the first decision I have to make is talking to my people of West Bay Central. They are the ones that hired me, and they are the ones I am responsible to report to. So depending on what the Cayman Islands decides on April the 30th, there could be some from the Progressives Party, there could be some from the CCTP Party, there could be some from the CI National Party that are elected. So I can't just look at those individuals and say, I am going to join this one or that one. My first responsibility is to call a meeting with the constituents of West Bay Central, let them know these are the cards that we have been dealt, and this is the best options that I believe that will allow us to accomplish a lot for West Bay Central, but not only West Bay Central, for Cayman as a whole, and ask them, what do you want me to do? That is my first obligation. It is not to a party, and it's not to an individual besides those of West Bay Central.
Okay.
So I just asked the folks that were in here before, because 3 of them were independents and 1 was with a party. So when we went off air, I said, help me understand this. We have Caymanians say they don't want no independence, right? And we saw at the last minute where people were struggling and picking up people to join a group. And Caymanians were clear they don't want no independence. I just don't understand how we find it so difficult to find consensus among ourselves and agree basic issues, because in my mind, that explains the plethora of independent candidates that we see running. And we saw that it didn't work. And we had 4 years if persons were interested in developing a party or whatever, and we still didn't get it right, to manage to put a team of people together. We waited until the very last minute, and here we are again, exposing the community to the same drama that we had 4 years ago. So I was asking them, and I don't think I got a credible answer from when I asked them. And and one of the young men said, "Hey, look, Miss Teresa, we were quiet. We didn't go at each other's throat. That's consensus too." So I says, "Well, there you go." But
I agree with what you're saying. But I will just like to add and say that I don't necessarily think because we have a significant amount of independents running that we're necessarily have different views, because I've talked to several independents and they have similar views as myself, because honestly, my first stance is Caymanians first. Whoever is for Caymanians and the uplifting of Caymanians, that is who I will present to my constituents to say, this is the team or this is the grouping that I think will be for Caymanians, and to set up policies to allow Caymanians to prosper. Because I agree, the last time when we had independence, it was chaotic. A constituent of mine said to me, she referred to it as shuffling dominoes, because every minute the players were changing and everything was shifting up. I don't want that kind of representation with any team that I am going to align myself with once I'm elected. I want the focus of the grouping, whoever it is, to be Caymanians first. And I will work. I will not quit. I will not quit. That is going, because my focus is Caymanians. My focus is not Jewel. It is the Cayman people. So there will be hard times, no matter if you're with a party or not. There will be hard times and there will be issues that you don't agree on. But you have to keep, what's the goal? The goal is to make Caymanians prosper and make this country sustainable, not only for me, you, and OC and everybody else, but for people's grandchildren, for people's nieces, nephews, for the seniors. That is what has to be our focus. And I think if we keep that at the forefront, whatever comes our way, we can get through it.
See, so, one more question, because but that requires discipline.
Yes,
and
it does.
And I've not seen it with perhaps with the PPM to some degree. They have managed to contain their structure or whatever. And I know people used to say it was together as an election machine, rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But it's that discipline, and I'm always reminded of what Gerard said about Caymanian people. He says that this is a former governor that we had.
Okay.
And, he said he doesn't understand the Caymanian people. You ask them to go on a boat together and they have the skill set and everything, but choosing one person that's going to be the leader, we struggle with that, because they would rather go into the engine room, mash it up, and make every one of the Caymanians drown. No, it's and this is someone as an outsider looking in, and you see that play out with every election.
Still obtains today.
Boy, yeah.
No,
so,
I mean,
but I hear you.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah. You're correct, and I mean, like I said, I think what causes a lot of that is the lack of focus and the lack of what is important. What did you sign up to run for? I think that is the issue, and people are looking too much at the power that goes with certain roles. It's not about the power for me. I don't need a ministerial seat. I'm happy to help the government in whichever way I can once I can take care of my people in West Bay Central, because they are my employers. I am the employee.
So does that mean that you will be closely monitoring the manifestos of the various parties to see if they align with your objectives, and will that be a determination in terms of the recommendations that you may make to your constituents in terms of, if you're successful, which direction you go as an independent?
Well, for the most part right now, what I'm actually doing is just concentrating on my race and concentrating on getting to see every person in West Bay Central. I have walked the streets all by myself. I haven't hired any team to go and meet people, because the people are fed up. They want to see the candidate. They want to hear from us. So I am walking those streets, every road, every day, every night. Some of the people have moved out and you can't find them, but that's what I'm doing. I have taken a very hands-on approach to my campaign, especially when it comes to meeting the individuals, because I have a great executive committee and I have great other subcommittees, but I felt that it was important for me to be the first touch point for my constituents for my election. And that's what I've been doing. Yes, I've been looking at the various persons who got nominated. Every now and then I will listen to, some speeches they make. I wouldn't say I have personally read the party's manifestos as yet. My executive committee has been doing that, and they're giving me the necessary advice, because obviously once I'm elected on April 30th, I will have more details brought to me in regards to what these manifestos contain, what they're all about. I am not going to be that candidate that runs off in the middle of the night at 12 midnight. No, that's not me.
Or being invited to a turtle meeting.
No, I'm not about that. My executive committee, I trust them completely. They are very experienced individuals, and they're very dedicated, and they're very trustworthy. So when they give me advice, I know what they're talking is facts. So once elected, by the grace of God, by the constituents of West Bay Central, the first people I will talk to, the executive committee, they give me the feedback, and then I set up a town hall meeting or a meeting at a civic center somewhere and speak to the voters.
Now, we have seen in the past where a considerable amount of pressure has been placed on successful candidates when it comes to forming a government.
Yes.
And you feel confident that you will be able to withstand those pressures and make the decision that you and your committee wants to make.
Yes, I am pretty confident of that. I just turned 50 in February, and I always tell people my mother and father, they raised a very, very strong woman. And even though I wear high heels, they're not going to sway. It's all about the people of West Bay Central for me. So I'm not going to be pressured into doing anything that they don't want me to do. But we all have the same goal, because based on canvassing, they want a representative at the table. It's just a matter of seeing who the Cayman Islands pick to represent them in the different districts, and then we come together and make that decision. But I'm not going to do it without them. I'm not going to do it. Nobody's going to pressure me to do what I don't want to do. And my first obligation, as I said to Teresa, at the forefront of my mind is Cayman and the West Bay Central community. And because I look at them as my employers, I think a lot of politicians forget that. The voters are our employers. So we have a responsibility to go to them before we make critical decisions.
Okay, Ms. Teresa, I'm going to ask you to pull a question, from that box. It's random. We don't know what the questions are. And like I said before, you may have, answered a portion of the question before, but feel free to elaborate more if you have answered it before.
Okay, no problem.
This one's about the vision for the future. What is your long-term vision for the Cayman Islands, and how will your policies bring this vision to life in a way that benefits future generations?
Okay. Thank you for that question. I think the first part of the question was my vision for the Cayman Islands. So I'll just take it in sections at a time. So my vision for the Cayman Islands is one where every Caymanian prospers, not just a few. That is my overarching vision for these islands, because for far too long, we as Caymanians have been treated like, I ain't gonna say second, I gotta say third and fourth, maybe fifth class citizens in our country. And we're at the point now where we feel like we have just been forgotten about, that no one is looking out for us, nobody is fighting for us. So that is my overarching vision for everyone in Cayman, to be prosperous. What you may consider prosperous may not be the same thing that someone who's a manager at Foster's or at a bakery considers prosperous. But everybody's prosperity is in their own eyes. And they might think having a savings of $3,000 or $4,000 is prosperous. I want to ensure, if that's what they think prosperity is for them, I want to ensure to implement policies that they can achieve their prosperity. Somebody else's prosperity might be having 100,000. So that prosperity it's different for each individual family and each individual, but the ultimate vision is for everyone to be prosperous at whatever level they desire. So I think the next part of the question was what policies I would implement to ensure prosperity. So recently, a lot of people have been talking about immigration reform. That's the new hot subject. And I've looked at the actual white paper, and there's many things in there that I agree with. In particular, the gap where individuals can leave the private sector, apply for a job in government, and then do be impacted by the rollover. Those kind of things have to stop, because that is part of what's impacting Caymanians and prosperity. Other people can come here, get a job, and Caymanians cannot get the job. Nobody can be prosperous if they can't even get employment. So that is the first thing I would address, the immigration reform. That has to be done. But I will also say this, it cannot be done in a silo. You have to include the Labor Act in that reform as well. And the reason I bring in the Labor Act is because currently I was advised that we only have 3 inspectors for the whole 3 islands. How are those three inspectors supposed to go out to every business here to make sure that they are in compliance? That's impossible. So you can't do immigration reform without the Labor Act. And one of the things that we can do, because we're so reliant on work permit fees, and by doing the reform, you would reduce some of those revenue, right? But has anybody ever thought about revenue that the Labor Department could be earning? It's a cost center right now to government, but there are many avenues in the Labor Department that we can actually generate some revenue. Because from my understanding, you have people applying for overtime exemptions. Businesses, big businesses that are applying for overtime exemptions. Why don't we charge a fee for that exemption? There are many little facets that we can look at to make the Labor Department a revenue generating unit for the government and not just a cost center. Other ways that I would allow my policy to be fulfilled, education. Every Caymanian has the right to education. I know they go up to high school, but not everybody wants to be a doctor and lawyer. So I overheard in your previous debate where Rolston mentioned about the trade school. And I know part of his plan when he was Minister of Education was to actually have SciFec, this phase 2 of SciFec, to be the actual national trade school. I think that's an excellent idea. And that, by doing that, will allow others to go and learn more trades. And it doesn't have to be a trade like being a carpenter, being a crane operator. It doesn't have to be stuff like that either, because a trade you can have the National Trade School do things such as social media management. That's a big money maker. Yeah. So things like that, you have to offer those opportunities. So those are the type of policies that I will be looking to put in place to ensure prosperity for everyone. There's more, but I know we're limited with time, but there's more policies, but those are 2 that I would definitely have in my...
I want to say that the approach is very integrative, and that's another conversation that I had, and I had the opportunity, obviously, to work with Rolston in 2009, so I'm aware of what he tried to do, and set him up. But impressive stuff, Ms. Jewel.
Thank you.
And I hope no one thinks that I hope no one thinks that I'm saying this and I'm choosing favorites and so on, because she's saying a lot of stuff that other folks didn't say, and it just makes a lot of sense, and she's substantiating it with reality. Yeah. So I'm going to grab another one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lucky number 2.
I was going to ask you, though, to also seriously consider upgrading the Labor Appeals Tribunal when you're talking about... Yes. Because that needs... So the next one is affordable housing.
Okay.
What innovative and sustainable policies will you introduce to ensure access to affordable housing for Caymanians while addressing the growing demand and limited land availability? That's
And before you answer that, I want to add something to that question as well.
Okay.
We see the rapid development that has taken place in the district of West Bay, but it appears to all be high end as well.
Yes.
So if you can deal with that issue while answering that question as well.
Yeah. Could you just repeat
Of course.
that again so I can?
Yeah. What innovative and sustainable policies will you introduce to ensure access to affordable housing for Caymanians while addressing the growing demand and limited land availability?
Okay, thank you for that. So, there's a universal principle that I firmly believe in, and that is all Caymanians should have access to food and shelter. However, at this stage, that is not a reality for many Caymanians, especially the younger generation. Many of them are looking for a place and can't find one, not even a piece of land they can afford to buy. When I look at my home, sometimes I just lay down and I say, Lord, I thank you so much, because I believe I was one of the blessed ones. I got mine when things were affordable, so to speak. But the reality is that at this stage, it's not affordable. So how do we address this? There are many ways that we can address this, but some that I would consider is concessions. First and foremost, the government gives large developers concessions. That's a reality. They give them concessions. What I don't see being done is locking those developers in to actually, okay, Mr. Developer, we've given you a concession. We want you, for this concession, we want you to build, let's call a number, 10 affordable homes or 10 apartments, because it's not benefiting Caymanians when we give the concession. So there has to be some benefit to the population, to the local population, to Caymanians. So this is one thing that I would advocate for. We can't just keep giving concessions. We can't. We have to make them accountable and make them responsible for working with us as a government and building homes or apartments, whatever the desire is, to make sure that our young people can afford something. Not everybody wants a house, Some want apartments. But what they want is somewhere to stay that they can call their own, whether that's an apartment, whether that's a house. But the beauty of this is they will start to build equity. So at this stage, maybe they can't afford a house. But if we had something in place where the developers built apartments that they could afford, they go and live in the apartment. They're probably single, or maybe have a wife or a fiance. They go live in the apartment, and as time progresses and as their career develops and as they earn more, they may want to then expand out to go to a house, move into a house, but they would have established equity that would help them transition from that apartment to a home. So that is what is most important. It's not where you start, it's where you finish, right? So that is one of the things that I would do, Teresa. The next thing that I would do is, I think right now the government doesn't know how many people, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the government doesn't know how many people or how many citizens in this country need homes. They don't have a good idea of that number.
What they do know, though, is the number of applications that they do have certainly don't have enough structures to fulfill those applications.
Correct.
So
correct.
That shows you the imbalance right there.
Right. Correct. So to me, an assessment needs to be done. An assessment needs to be done to determine how many people in this country need a home? How many people? Because I know they do the economics and statistic office. They do surveys and stuff like that, and they have information. But I don't think that information is still a true reflection of the persons who need and want a place to call their own. Because I've talked to people in my constituent, and they said they don't even bother to apply because they just get turned down. So there's a lot of people that want, but they don't bother to apply because they look at it as it's a waste of time. Yeah. They look at it as a waste of time. They take long to get a response. When they get a response, it's an inappropriate response and these kind of things. So an assessment needs to be done on how many persons in reality need homes, how many citizens. And then when the government finds that number out, the government needs to then determine how many realistically, and be realistic about it, how many homes can we actually build? Because
can we afford to build?
Exactly. Because costing and the limited land space, all of that you mentioned before, that is an issue. That is an issue. So those are questions that the government has to ask.
So Joel, none of this is rocket science.
No.
How do we explain why this has not been done before? Because I know we've raised it on how many decades on your talk show?
Yes.
Yeah.
What prevents people, what explains the inertia and the inaction? Because I don't understand.
I'm not going to speak for someone, but I'm going to just say that what I believe happens is once persons are elected, for some reason, they forget
who elected them.
Yeah. I can't go into people's minds, but it's not just been one government alone. It's successive governments. They forget who elected them and what they were there for. I'll just share with you guys. When I go canvassing, I have a book, not this book, but I have a book. And I write down everything that those constituents tell me. And I don't just write it down, When I go home, I go on my laptop and I type it out. And you know why I type that out? Because by the grace of God, once I'm elected on April the 30th, that is going to be my Bible. And I am going to carry that to the parliament with me because I am going to remember to always have them at the forefront. That is what I do because I am not going to take advantage of the trust the people of West Bay Central would have given me to elect me to Parliament. I don't take that lightly.
What would you say differentiates you from other leaders that we've had? Because I'm hearing you. Yeah.
Besides being a woman.
We have one.
I know. I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
No, I would say what differentiates me is that I've been on the ground. Like this isn't my first time in a political atmosphere. This is the first time I'm putting myself up as a candidate. But I have worked with previous parties and previous individuals to try to get them elected. And I didn't do that this time. And the reason I didn't do that is I said, you know what? I know my heart. I know my people. I'm going to go and fight for them. And I think that is what makes me stand out. I wouldn't call myself a politician. I would call myself a representative because I'm not going to sugarcoat. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. I'm going to tell the people the truth. And sometimes politicians, they forget that. So I want to try to bring back some value and some dignity to that word called politician because believe you me, the people out there have lost trust in that word called politician. They have, and they're angry. People out there are very angry. So what makes me different? I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter, and I'm not afraid to work.
On that note, we explained earlier that your opponent was unable to be here tonight. Are you looking forward to engaging her in a debate at some stage during the campaign?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that Miss Ebanks-Wilkes couldn't attend here today. But I do look forward to engaging her at some point because she has a lot of questions to answer to the people of West Bay Central, and I am really interested in hearing those answers.
Okay, let's draw another question. And, she's been so gracious in remaining here. She's taking, taking all the incoming salvos, by herself.
And she's not pussyfooting around either. She's taking them on and giving as much as she gets.
Yes.
Yeah. Economic diversification. How do you envision expanding the economy beyond tourism and finance? And what sectors do you see as key to building a more resilient and diversified economy?
And I'm going to add a little bit to that as well. The District of West Bay, historically, are heavily involved in the tourism sector, either working in the hotels and in the condos, as well as the sightseeing, the tours, and the development of Stingray City as well. So that history is with West Bay as far as tourism is concerned.
Yes, that's correct. Thanks for that question, Teresa. I think Cayman is actually on its way to diversifying the economy already. And why I would say that is because we currently have, for several years now, the economic zone. And that is a place that deals with different types of things such as cryptocurrency and likewise. So I think from that perspective, we are already diversifying. Some other things that I would want to continue to grow in Cayman for the economy would be medical tourism. The Health City is doing quite a good job on that. And I think that is something that we can use to help diversify our economy so that we're not just relying on tourism and finance. And another thing, and I believe you may have actually been a part of this, but correct me if I'm wrong. There was once talked about sports, like sports tourism, and I think we've over the years we have done some stuff with that, and I think that we've seen a lot of benefit because we had people coming from all over the world to those events. So I think things like that we can continue to look at. Construction obviously is doing really well for us, but I think tourism, there's still a lot that we can do with tourism. And to continue, despite, and I'll just bring this up, currently we know that there is a decline in cruise tourism because of the larger ships. So things like that, I think we need to, as leaders, work on. Because as you said before, West Bay has significant persons that are involved in tourism, and in particular, they are impacted by cruise tourism. There's talks right now, there's an actual referendum about a question about should the Cayman Islands build a dock. And I will say here without any form of hesitation, I think the answer to that question is yes. However, there are other questions that need to be answered before we actually start that project. Such questions such as, where should we put the dock? What type of dock?
The cost?
The cost, yes. The cost. What's the impact to the environment? So answering the referendum question to me is the easy part. The hard part is what happens after. The environmental impact assessment, all of those sorts of things have to take place before we can embark on such a project. But the people of West Bay in particular are very reliant on that. And if we get that in place, those larger ships will come here That will continue to make the tourism product grow, and the revenue streams will continue to rise, unlike what's happening now. And I'll just bring up something that someone shared with me. And I think one of your previous candidates in here from West Bay North said that stayover tourism is larger, the revenue generation, but
contributes more to the economy.
Yes, but in reality, when you look at the survey that was done by the tourism department, they found that cruise tourism, a passenger spends $94 in 8 hours. Stayover spends $201 every 24 hours. And this was a survey that was done by the tourism department. So when you divide that out, cruise tourism is actually contributing a significant amount of money to this country. So people should not look at that lightly. And this goes back to the question about prosperity. If we don't do stuff like this, how are our people going to prosper? We have to consider the Caymanian people when we make any decision. So that is one way that cruise tourism can start to boom again. We need to get the dock, but there are questions that have to be answered before that project starts.
Okay. One more question, Ms. T.
And I'm curious too, Joel. Why would things be any different come May 1st with a series of independents who speak as eloquently as you do, with heart as big as yours, because we've seen it. And what would you do to convince us that you working with another team will bring about focus-oriented leadership that's willing to work with consensus and putting the Caymanian people first? That's triggering, because I'm hearing you, I'm liking what you're saying, but I'm going to, and the minute I saw this, I thought of your mom.
Oh, okay.
With the elderly population growing, what comprehensive initiatives will you introduce to improve long-term care, financial security, and quality of life for senior citizens? So with the elder population growing, what comprehensive initiatives will you introduce to improve long-term care, financial security, and quality of life for senior citizens? And I must say, many congratulations and kudos, Jewel, for active listening and active responding. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this question definitely touches me greatly, because many persons would have known that in January I lost my mother. She passed away. And so going on this race hasn't been a easy one, but I know that she would want me to continue what my heart tells me to do and continue with it. So in regards to seniors, the seniors are the lifeline of the Cayman Islands. They are the ones who built this tourism product. I remember my mom working at Silver Sands condos years ago. I mean, she used to carry me there, and I used to help her with the laundry and help her cleaning the rooms and so forth. And they took that with such pride. They had to make sure that room was spotless, make sure everything just looked perfect. And she made so many friends over the years. I mean, every year they would come, they would call her and want to meet up with her. So those are the individuals who have grown this tourism product. And in regards to quality of life, when it comes to our seniors, I did a video and I said some of the things that I would actually do for our seniors, because a lot of them, they don't have transportation or they're unable to drive at the moment. And a lot of them need that transportation service, whether it comes for banking, whether it's to go to the store, whether it's to pick up medication and so forth. So that's one of the things I would do to assist them. during their older years, so that they don't have to struggle to worry about when they're going to go to the bank and so forth. And I know my Miss Catherine Wilkes, the current MP for West Bay Central, she had started an initiative. However, that was very short-lived, and that has left a lot of seniors feeling neglected. And it's unfortunate that she didn't push harder to keep that program going, because that was a good program. However, I will take over that responsibility from her, and I'm already in talks with people who provide transportation service who would be willing to do it for no charge on certain days to make sure that the seniors get their prescriptions and their banking and so forth. So that's one thing that I would do. Another part of it, my aunt, who's a QC, she actually told me about a program that happens in Georgetown where the seniors actually exercise.
Yeah.
They have an exercise program.
Meter runs it, yeah.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct. And, when she told me about that, I said, that's a very great initiative that I would want to bring down in West Bay, so that the seniors could actually have a day or so where they exercise, and it's not strenuous exercise that she does. She does things that suits their age and so forth.
And boxing, Jewel.
Yeah. Boxing too. I didn't know. I my aunt told me it was sit in the chair.
There you go. There you go.
So they were, and it not only helps them with their health, it gives them that camaraderie. They get to see people that they don't normally see and so forth. And we know that as humans, we are touchy-feely persons, and we love that interaction with individuals. So in addition to that, I would be supportive of the program that the government now has, where the seniors actually get like a monthly stipend. I think that could possibly be increased, because times are very hard, OC, and seniors,
Cost of living.
Yeah, they shouldn't have to be worrying about that. And some of them don't have any family to help them. It's just them. So those are three of the things that I would say I would work on.
Okay. I want to, first of all, extend our condolences to you on the loss of your mom. There are varying positions in relation to the position of Speaker in our Parliament. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that, or what is your view in relation to the Speaker being chosen from inside the Parliament, from amongst the members of Parliament, as opposed to being chosen outside of Parliament? And if you were elected and were to be offered the position of Speaker, would you take it?
Okay. Thanks for that question. I'll share something that not too many people actually know about me. My very first job was in the Parliament. Very first job I think I was probably 17, 18, somewhere around there. Very first job. And I worked under the tutelage of the Honourable Sybil McLaughlin and Miss Georgette Myrie. Two ladies that I will always look up to, and they taught me a lot about parliamentary procedures and roles and that sort of stuff before. And then shortly after that, I went off to university. So I know a lot about parliamentary procedures, the roles, the different positions. And I would say to you that I don't mind either way, to be honest, if it's chosen from someone inside or outside. If I had to do a preference, I would say someone from the outside, but they have to be knowledgeable of the processes and procedures. They can't just be somebody you pull and do that role. It has to be somebody that can handle that role and understand the standing orders and that sort of stuff.
But do you think that you can contribute to your constituency in the role of Speaker?
No, I was getting to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting to that. So I think the other part was you said if I was given an opportunity. Yeah. So if I was given an opportunity to be Speaker, I wouldn't take it. I would respectfully turn that option down. And the reason being, as speaker, you don't really get to participate and help and get involved with your constituency and get things done. I am signing up to get things done for the people of West Bay Central and the Cayman Islands. So therefore, sitting in that speaker's seat, while it would be an honor, would not help me achieve what I told the people I was going to achieve for them.
And you see, that begs the question too, you know, because the speaker's role is an independent and impartial one, it actually questions whether or not we ought to have politicians that are elected doing that particular job. And well, that's just a
I mean, I know, like, in the past there have been people from the outside, there have been politicians that got elected and they took the role. I can tell you from my experience working with Miss Sybil, and she wasn't a politician, she was someone from the outside. She was very knowledgeable of those processes and procedures, and she had shared with me that it's better for someone from the outside to have the role versus somebody on the inside, because politicians are there to work. They're not there to just sit and have their mouths muzzled, so to speak, because you're very restricted when you get that speaker's role.
Ms. Jill, we're going to give you an opportunity for some closing comments to wrap up, and then I'm going to ask my colleague after that to render a vote of thanks for you being here. And over in the control room, and Miss Kathy, what we'd like to do afterwards, we still have some time since we were scheduled to go until 10 o'clock, is for Miss Teresa and I to sit and talk about the experience, tonight. We have learned from it. This is our first rodeo in terms of moderating a debate. So we want to talk about the good things, some of the pitfalls and stuff like that, and the improvements that we can make and that we can also recommend to our colleagues who will be following us in the next debate on Wednesday night as well. So first of all, Mr. Jewell, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you to Norma and the Radio Cayman team as well. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to my constituents of West Bay Central and the wider Cayman Islands. And what I would say as my closing remarks is, West Bay Central, the time has come to make a choice about the future of our constituency and our country. The choice is clear. We need leadership that shows up, listens, and delivers. 4 years ago, you were promised action, but what did you get? A representative that resigned from cabinet without even informing you, her constituents. A representative that had 4 years to make a difference, but failed to do so. A representative that put herself first before the people of West Bay Central and our country. She didn't deliver then, and she wouldn't deliver now. I will always show up and fight for you. I will not take your trust for granted. I will always put your interests first above mine. My commitment to you is unwavering, West Bay Central. Every decision I make, I will have you and your families at the forefront. You deserve a representative that will advocate for you, not disappear when things get tough. Someone who understands your struggles and has determination and experience to get things done. West Bay Central, let's reclaim our future together. On election day, vote for leadership that works for you. Vote for a representative that will fight for you every single day. I am ready to serve. Let's do this together. Thank you, and may God bless you and your families and these Cayman Islands.
Ms. Teresa?
Yeah, so thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure hosting or co-moderating
yes.
you and the team that we had before. It was really informative. Learned a lot of things too. Some things I wasn't too sure about, and some things I said, not too sure. But a lot to reflect on, to think about, and thanks for your time. And I'd also like to thank the staff of Radio Cayman who put this together. And as Dr. McField would always say, to all those locals in Radio Land or Mr. For the Record Land, thank you so very much for spending some time with us tonight. And we hope that it's been an informative experience for you as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Folks,
you.
we're going to take
Thank
a
you.
quick break, and we're going to do a postmortem of the debate afterwards as well. And I'm sure that many of you out there, will have your opinions, on it as well. But I want to thank again all of the candidates. They did extremely
brilliantly
well. They didn't have to reach for ideas. They didn't have to reach for words, and they all spoke from their hearts.
And they were pleasant. They treated each other with respect.
Yes. And deference, yes.
That's true.
Okay, we're going to throw it over to the control room.
The following is a paid political broadcast. The views, information, or opinions expressed in this forum are solely those of the participants of this event and do not represent the views of the management and staff of Radio Cayman.
At Enterprise Cayman, we're connecting ambitious minds with real-world opportunities. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, tech enthusiast, or looking to expand your network, we've got the tools, training, and community to help you thrive. From career-boosting internships to hands-on startup support, this is where innovation begins. Don't miss out on the upcoming hackathon happening May 10th. Explore this and more today at enterprisecayman.ky. Enterprise Cayman. Innovate, connect, grow.
Hey, Cayman parents, we get it. You're underslept, over-trafficked. You can barely find your sanity in the morning because you're still trying to find your kids' shoes and lunch boxes. Let Yum take some of the stress away. Every day, over 3,000 students enjoy delicious, nutritious meals from Yum. Over 5 million lunches served and counting. Private school parents? Browse the Yum Cayman app and order up to a month in advance or last minute by 12 a.m. the night before. Government school students? Just drop by the Yum canteen. No pre-orders needed. Yum can't help you find your sanity, but we can sure make your mornings just a bit easier. Check out daily menus at myschoolpos.com or visit yumcayman.ky to learn more.
It's March Madness at Reflections. Shop the red tag sale until the end of March at Reflections. Save on kids, men's, and women's selected style shoes and sneakers. Brands like Nike, Puma, Reebok, and Dockers 50% off. Adidas 60% off. Ladies jeans in select styles at 50% off. And ladies tops from $9.99. Men step out in your Levi's $5.50. Now 25% off. All accessories and handbags 50% off. Shop the March Madness Red Tag Sale at Reflections all month long and be entered to win 2 Cayman Airways tickets. That's mad!
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
Come on, let me in. I can't cope with Karen in the office no more, man. Another day of her could drive me mad. I got so much laundry to do home. Oh, another message? Man, this traffic not moving today, or come on, let me in now.
Life is all about the choices we make to deal with the office Karens or sit in this long traffic, or a choice to pursue your dreams to improve your future. UCCI, It's not the classes, the grades, or a piece of paper. It's your ticket for the adventure of your choice. The choice to live your dream. Stop waiting on the path. Visit www.ucci.edu.ky. Choose your dream and blaze your trail today.
Yesterday,
Today,
always and forever.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Good night and welcome back to the Radio Cayman studio. What Miss Theresa and I are going to do now is when most debates take place, national debates, televised debates as well, you will have the various news organizations sit down and critique the debate, critique the candidates and their responses as well. What we want to do here tonight is really to critique our performance. Like I say, this was my first rodeo. Our first rodeo as well. And while I have a few years experience under my belt as a talk show host, it was, quite different. And I believe that came out in the second segment where we had a more informal conversation with just one individual, whereas in the first debate we had 4 candidates in the studio. We had a very rigid format that we wanted to follow because it was important for us to give each candidate equal opportunity and equal time as well. Now, there's no doubt that those persons moderating on Wednesday night will have something to build on. They will get the opportunity to learn from some of our mistakes as well. But overall, I believe that it went extremely well, and we look forward to feedback from our listening and viewing audience at some point in time as well. Ms. T,
Yeah.
your
So, as you know, my phone is blowing up, and I'm getting diverse views.
Mhm.
So what I thought that when we had the conversations last week, when we were talking a little bit about the forum and the format and so on, if we look at what the chamber does, it's not clear to me whether that's a debate format.
Mhm.
It's not. It seems as though each person is asked to ask the question, and folks come rehearsed with a response.
Okay.
And when we had the conversation, I'm saying, how do we best elicit an authentic response from the candidates?
Mhm.
Because it's easy to sit down and just regurgitate rehearsed responses. I didn't think that that's what we wanted. I didn't think so. So, and I know I infused it with some personality and stuff like that. But the idea was to ensure that the persons who came here this evening were comfortable enough to speak their truth and to answer responsibly without attacking each other.
Mm-hmm.
And what we saw in the first go-round was, people were a little uptight-ish.
Yes,
they weren't
yes.
loose and stuff
Hesitant,
like that.
mhm.
But yeah, and by the time we got to, or at least by the time we got to the end of the earlier discussion, we saw people starting to respond and responding to different questions and so on and so forth. But that took us almost an hour to get there.
Yes, yes.
When Jewel came in on fire, and we just said, hey, look, you're here by yourself. We're hoping that the format that we employed originally to ask you questions and so on, which you were unprepared for, we hope that you won't be offended by that. And she says, no, you just throw the stuff at me and we're good to go. And what I think what we saw was what we tried to discuss when we had the conversations last Thursday about what the Radio Cayman format and debate would look like. One, it would give the audience an opportunity to look at the candidate and see how they respond to questions that they're not prepared for. They might know some of the main issues, and in fact, who doesn't know the main issues running there? They're not in the right lane. But so one, we wanted to see the candidate with their authentic self. We wanted to see how the candidates would respond to things that were unrehearsed. We also wanted to see how the candidates would act I was going to say, use a legal term, how they would act between each other, not just as competitors, because that's what we had in the first going, but also as persons who, say that they want the same thing for Caymanians. Because when I kept hearing the same thing over and over and over, saying that we need change and so on and so forth, there is this suggestion that, politicians in the past didn't come to this space with similar intentions. The example that I usually use is actually with Alden McLaughlin. And I used to say, the person that I knew I encouraged when I was chair of the Bar Association to run for political office, he would not, the first thing on his mind was not necessarily putting Caymanians in an adverse position. I'm sure that that's not the case. So and if we use that analogy with everyone, no one could explain what happens once elected to office and what brings about that change. And I tried, on a few occasions to get people to respond to that.
Yes, yes. Well, I want to extend, gratitude to the management and staff of Radio Cayman for giving us this opportunity. We hope that we did them proud, and we're looking forward to doing more of these in the future. More importantly, though, we hope that our listeners and our viewers had an opportunity to assess the candidates and those who wanted to hear their views, even though some of them may not reside in the constituencies where these individuals are running. But again, Radio Cayman has provided a platform for people to express themselves, to do it in a civil manner, and for our listening audience and viewing audience to also enjoy it as well. While, you know, we didn't have a call in, that's a completely different story altogether. You know, that's for a different type of debate and everything else. But again, extremely thankful. And like I said, while we may have gotten off to a little rocky start, we started to steady the ship. No one went down in the engine room and wrecked
Oh my goodness.
you know, and wrecked the engine room at all. We kept the ship afloat, and at the end of the day, yes, that is what it's all about. Folks, thank you. Thank you all very much. Have a good night, and may God continue to bless these 3 beautiful Cayman Islands.
Thank you.
The preceding was a paid political broadcast.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.